Everyone, and welcome to episode 17 of Talks with V. We are streaming live here with the HBCU Lounge Network, and we're so happy to be here with you all. This evening's episode is So You Think You're Ready for Marriage, and I am very excited about the conversation. Hope you all are as well. Right. And this evening, our guests are marriage counselor, our guest marriage counselors are therapist James Perkins and Dr. and Pastor Nick and therapist Rabia Ali, who are here to help us address what it looks like to be ready for marriage. So feel free, you all, to, if you have questions, to throw them in the chat, and we will be happy to answer any questions that you might have. All right. Well, welcome to you all. I'm so happy that you all are here. And I've had the privilege, to spend time with a couple of you in various spaces. And I know for certain that you all offer a lot of value. Many have vouched for you. And so I'm super excited about what we, unpack tonight. Without further ado, I would like to give you guys an opportunity to introduce yourself and tell our audience a little bit about what you do and your years of experience. And so, Dr. Nick, you can go first.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Nick. That's an abbreviated version of Dr. Nicole P. Lyles Belton. I'm in the Atlantic City, New Jersey area. I am a youth pastor. I'm also a life coach, a mentor. I am also a special needs educator, a radio personality, a red carpet event host, a motivational speaker, an author, and so much more, and a vegan for the animals. And I'm excited to be here tonight. I love empowering people and impacting lives and allowing us to go from good to great. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. Welcome.
I love empowering people and impacting lives.
Okay, and therapist James Perkins, if you can tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Awesome. Hello, my name is James Perkins. I'm a therapist here in the state of North Carolina. I do individual and couples therapy with a special focus on serving my brothers, African-American men that look like me, share my experience, and host of the Bros in Therapy podcast, which is a podcast specifically dedicated to Black men in pursuit of emotional wellness. So really glad to have this conversation tonight.
Yes, I love it. And Mr. Rabia.
Hi. So my name is Rabia Ali. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I've been in the mental health field for 15 years. I'm licensed for two and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And so my focus is trauma and trauma responses. That is my specialty, or trauma recovery, rather. But I also am in private practice, and I do a lot of services for the community. I have a contract for serving specifically African American clients in the community.
One moment, Rabia. It's kind of coming a little, like the sound is a little bit off. And I want to make sure they can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay.
So want me to start over?
Just kind of the last few things that you said, the last slide.
Okay. Well, my specialty is trauma recovery, but I also serve clients, African American clients in the community. I'm in Sacramento, California. So that's where my practice.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. Well, we're going to go ahead and jump right on into it. So earlier this week, this past week, I had some stats that I shared about African-American marriages ending in divorce. And I found it kind of interesting. So according to the Washington Post, after 3 years, 17% of African-American couples were divorced or separated 3 times the white percentage. They stated that a major factor is in marital risk among African Americans is the anxiety felt by Black husbands about being able to provide adequately for their families. Hatchett reported a study done with 199 Black couples and 174 white couples. So I wanted to ask you all, in your experience of, doing couples therapy and working with families, do you find this to be true? And is this an example of not being prepared, for marriage? So James? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm about to say, since I'm the brother, they talk about us. I might as well step up for us,
Exactly.
right?
That's
Right. I want to say yes and give some caveats here. I think one of the things that I've seen in my experience in, primarily working with African American men is that for a lot of men, current generation and even past baby boomer, the models that they've seen about being a husband have been this one specifically, that as long as I'm financially providing for my family, then that's my model of fatherhood and being a husband. It's not an inaccurate picture, but it is an incomplete what it means to be a husband. So what ends up happening is there is an overemphasis on financially providing while putting at risk or a de-emphasis on emotional intelligence, emotional
Right.
support. So it leads you to only have to focus on financially providing for your family, which obviously will create a burden if you feel like that is the only role that you need to play. The second part of that in talking with couples is that women are not so opposed to, let me say this concisely. It's not that women are afraid that their husband is not going to have a job as much as they are afraid of lack of vision. They can't handle a man with no vision in life. That's when it really becomes something, because it's like, okay, I know you don't have a job, but what are you doing to get to your next step? What is it even that you want to even do in life? That's what they have a little bit of anxiety about, which can spill over into conflict as relates to not enough resources in the home.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can totally understand that. And I know that I found in talking to a lot of couples, especially talking to men after they've been divorced, and they're like, well, I paid all the bills. I made sure she had everything that she, asked for, and she still left me. And I'm like, well, like you're not just money, right? Like, like the relationship is more
Right.
than just the finances. That obviously is important, but if you think that the relationship is completely just finances and things, no, like there's no ability to connect there, especially because your mindset is that's how you're thinking, and you're not checking in to see if that's exactly what it is that she desires in that relationship. It's not, some couples it's all business, so then that might work, in that kind of scenario, but a lot of times it's more than that. So, and Dr. Nick, did you want to add to that?
I just want to just because what James shared, he said a mouthful. It's absolutely true. But what you just said is more than that. And I think that a lot of our Black men don't realize that they're more than just money.
Yes.
Black men are more than just money. Black husbands are more than just money. And I think that an issue that we're having is that we're not, before they get to be married, before they get to become husbands, we're not pouring that into our Black men before they get married.
Right.
And so what happens is we get a wonderful Black man who gets married to someone who thinks that in his mind, I'm just here to provide, but provide is more than just a financial provision. Like you're providing also covering, you're providing support, you're providing prayer, you're providing power, you're providing strength. There's so much more that you're providing. And so we have conditioned a lot of Black men to believe that they're just providers as far as money. And so if this is what I've only been taught, that I am just providing money, and in that moment or in that season, I don't have it, then I'm not any good, and I'm not worth anything to this family, and I'm not valuable. And this is not, the onus is not only on the Black man, it's also on his spouse, whatever culture she is, because as a woman, we are supposed to speak back into that man, and to be able to tell that man you're more than just money. And not just that, we're supposed to come to the table with something too. Now, I know that's not the topic, but I just want to add there. I want to add there because I believe that if we would allow Black men to know this is not just a marriage, but a partnership. I am your partner, and I'm coming, and I am here to help you and not just take from you. I believe we'll be able to change some of these stats.
Absolutely. And that just, what you said just made me think about the fact of, not pouring that into them ahead of time. A lot of times marriage is on the brain for young girls. Like since they're little babies, they got the baby dolls and their easy bake oven, if keeping the house and stuff like that. So it's on their brain. It's something that they're like looking forward to for various different reasons. But then, young men, then they get married and then it's just like, now the learning starts. It's like, no, like we got to learn beforehand so we understand like how we can appreciate each other, and even though young girls grow up wanting to get married, I think that understanding the heavy appreciation of what a man is able to bring as well is good to learn that so that you can pour into him and let him know like, hey honey, yes, I'm thankful that you provide, I'm thankful that you are here, but there's more than that, just the financial resource. I appreciate you for this. I appreciate you because you're intelligent, in this area where I'm not, like where I'm, I struggle in that area. And in that sense, then it's almost like you grow each other, you continue to grow each other, which is what should be happening, right? So absolutely, I appreciate that. And Rabia, did you have anything that you wanted to add to these stats?
Everything that both of them said, I piggyback on that. Like that is absolutely, and even what you said, B, about the messaging. Sometimes, most of the time, I say that the messaging is wrong. Right? We are trained to be wives from the beginning, like what Dr. Nick said about baby dolls and kitchens and vacuums when we're little. But men are not trained in doing that, and then we women have these conversations all the time. Like, why are men not ready to be married, or why are they not trained to be doing this? But the men are not having these conversations with the men, right? And I appreciate Dr. James, but there aren't a lot of Black male therapists out there to be able to give these services to these men. The men are not trained in the same way that we are.
We're gonna clone you. We're gonna clone you, doctor. Therapist James. I'm manifesting doctor, right? But we're gonna clone you right after the show.
Right. Let's do it. I'm down.
I think the messaging is wrong, and it needs to be shifted so that men are also given these tools before they get married, like we are.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely. Okay, so moving on to our next question. What are some of the misconceptions about marriage? I would like you to take that first, Dr. Nick. I don't know. For some reason, I'm just feeling it. So then you got
Here are some misconceptions about marriage. That marriage is the wedding. Marriage is about the rings. Marriage is about the reception, the guest list, the gifts, the dresses. If you're extra like me, more than one dress. Marriage is about the dinner. Marriage is about, if you choose not to have an actual, live wedding, but has something more private. Marriage is about the judge or the witnesses or the marriage license. Marriage is the honeymoon. Marriage is what happens the night of the honeymoon. That is not marriage. In fact, marriage doesn't really begin until the mindset of being a husband and wife and the two shall become one should be happening before you say I do. But all of these different things that I just mentioned, a lot of people, especially women, think that that's what the marriage is. And that's totally wrong. And I believe this is why many women in the first couple of months, and I have to say I was one of them, feel very hoodwinked after the I do, when all of the fanfare is over and the pomp and circumstance and the great festivities are over. And now we're like, well, where is the fun? And where is the glitz and the glam? No, it's now time for two people who are coming from two different lifestyles and two different worlds are coming together to make their lives work and to make their lives fit. And a lot of people have the misconception that marriage is all of the beautiful things that happen before the I do and not the work that happens after the honeymoon.
That was it.
Good, Dr. NYC.
Yes. So James, what would you say, about that? What those misconceptions are as well, if you want to.
So since I'm the only brother on the panel, I'm gonna add some stuff for the brothers. One that, and I'm gonna keep it straight, that dating, taking your spouse out on a date night is only a condition for courtship, but not for not for marriage. So once I've got you, all right, we can chill out on the date night. It's not a priority. Yes, it is supposed to be sustained priority. That, you know, regular emotionally conversations where you are sharing your heart, sharing your soul, that's just so we can get to know each other before, you know, we make this commitment. Nope, something meant to be sustained. The making the other person, and this happens pretty frequently, unfortunately, that we end up trying to make that your partner is going to break. Excuse me, your partner. You're putting the responsibility on your partner to fix what they didn't break. So that one, I'll just drop 3 of those. I can give you 100, but I'm just dropping 3 right there.
That's good. It's so good, though. I'm glad that you said that because a lot of times, you know, as women, you know, dating or, you know, married, we'll have our complaints that we're talking to other ladies about, but we don't realize like what it is that you guys, you know, like how you're looking at it, right? So when you say that, so many times I've heard women say that, like, now, like, it's like we don't date. He doesn't take me out on dates anymore. And I want to go on dates. I want, you know, romance still. And it's just kind of like, now that he's got me, you know, like that's it, you know?
Right.
so that's really, really, really good. Really good. And Ravia, I see you nodding your head.
Of course, I agree with everything. So the thing that I've seen the most with the couples that I usually serve is that there's a common misconception about, just like what Dr. Nick said, there's 2 people coming into the relationship and joining their lives together. But people often assume now we're like this, right? Like this one client that I had, she was like, well, I said, well, she was like, he's blue and I'm red and we always clash. And I said, okay, when you get into the marriage, you're supposed to be blue and red going down the road together. You're not supposed to be purple. Right? Everything is not together. You're supposed to be 2 individual people coming together to build your life. You're still supposed to be 2 individual people when you're in the marriage. It's not that we do everything together. We don't, you know, we're not supposed to, you know, be completely joined at the hip all the time. Like what Dr. Nick said, it's supposed to be complementary, right? Wherever I'm lacking, you're supposed to be able to fill in that void. Wherever you're lacking, I'm supposed to be able to fill it in. But we're not supposed to be filling in voids for each other in order for us to be able to be whole people. We're supposed to already be 2 whole people before we come into this situation.
Right. And I like that because I never heard that before. Like, you know, the blue and the red, like now you think you got to be purple because you've heard your whole life when 2 come together, they're one. And you're like, okay, so now it's this new thing. But I like what you're saying is like, you know, no, it's blue and red, you know, partnering, traveling together, right? Through this journey, you know, like of life and doing life together in marriage. And so that makes complete sense because even if, you know, we complement each other, this is what I think. And, you know, like, you know, I'm still learning as well, but we're complimenting each other. You're strong in areas that I'm not strong in, and I'm strong in areas that you're not strong in. But that doesn't mean we're going to go all 50 years of our marriage where I never get good at the things that you're good at. Like, come on, like if that's going on, you're not showing up. You know, you might be there, but you're not there. So I love that point that you guys, everything that was said. It's so good. So, James,
I want to add one. This is actually probably, I should have added this to the list because I find this like almost very consistently is that, you know, couples sometimes tend to think that the presence of conflict determines the quality of the relationship. And I think that's a misconception because if you already see conflict as something negative, then of course you're going to shy away from it or judge the person that you're with based on the reality that you're having conflict with them. And so it's not the presence of conflict that determines the quality of a marriage or relationship. It's how you handle it. So you can either use conflict to build oneness and unity, or you can either use it to erode that intimacy or oneness. just wanted to add that one.
Yeah, love it, love it. Give your partner some grace. I've heard some really
Right.
good couples speak and they talk about that. I remember what is it? Nicole Ari Parker and Boris Kojo, and they were talking about like having some elasticity in your relationship, because if you have this pressure in your mind that if I am not perfect, like, it's over.
Mhm.
That's kind of, it makes it difficult for you to actually grow and be in a relationship with that person, because you have all this pressure and unrealistic expectations
Right.
that you may have never been able to, to be this imaginary person that, your spouse has created in their head. So I love it. I love it. Okay. All right. So in your experience, have you found that most couples are ready for marriage? Because I think that a lot of times people just assume they're ready for marriage because they're like, okay, I'm this age, I finished school, I got a great career. I pretty much know what I want, so I'm ready for marriage. And it's just like, oh, I don't know. So,
Right.
James, or go ahead.
Yeah, I was shaking my head. I said no. Some couples don't know what they don't know, and so they're going into it ill-advised. And what I've seen is just like the quality. People have either had very minimal premarital counseling or none at all, and so they have literally been thrown to the wolves once they get married. And so a lot of the couples I see are. I think their current state of marriage is a result of just essentially poor preparation, sometimes on their part, but sometimes just because they didn't have adequate tools that were given to them in preparation for it.
Absolutely. I know that when we spoke, you had mentioned that about, you would say like 80% of the couples that, that you are, or that you have counseled, that if they would have done premarital counseling, that their relationship would be in the state that it's in today.
Right.
So, yeah, I thought that. Yeah, that's good.
Look, and our other counselors will tell you this, and anybody who's been married will tell you that marriage already takes a lot of intentional work to have a thriving marriage. So if it already takes work and you are behind the 8 ball, so to speak, because you just don't have adequate tools, even if you have the commitment, the love, the desire, but not the capacity or the tools, it can really be a hard uphill climb, so to speak.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree. And Dr. Nate?
I agree. I don't think that most people are ready for marriage. I think that our feelings and their feelings make them think they're ready for marriage. Like, I love you and you love me, and I don't want to be with anyone else. I can imagine life without you. So let's get married.
Right.
and we have to understand that marriage is so much more than love. It's so much more than just love. It's flexibility. It is commitment. It's understanding. It's intentionality on the great days and the not so great days. So there's so much more than just that butterfly feeling I get when I see his number pop up on my phone, or when I see her walk up to the front door. It's so much more than that. And I think that there was a great misconception about that. And as was mentioned, if people really did intense and intentional marriage counseling, premarital counseling, then I think that a lot of the issues that have happened in marriage and even some of the divorces would not have been in that condition, because they would have gone through taken the proper steps to be intentional in learning. Like, I want to learn. I want to know what I don't know, and I want to know how to be able to understand my partner and apply that same grace, as you mentioned, that flexibility that I want my partner to give me. If I want grace, I need to give my partner grace. So I'll have to say, just as when I became an educator, I thought I knew, but it was on the job training that taught me really how to be an educator and how to deal with students, especially special needs students. And so it is with marriage. Marriage is on the job training. And I'll end by saying this. My father is a pastor, and one of the things he says is marriage is work. Marriage is work, but it takes work. And it'll work if you work the work. But if you don't work the work, then you can't expect your marriage to work.
Right.
That's good. That's good. I want to go like this.
Right.
Yes.
Ashe. Oh my goodness. And Ravia, I see you nodding your head, as well. What did you have to add to that about, those couples? Are they ready that you, in your experience?
Well, talking about like premarital counseling, I would even go as far as saying pre-serious relationship counseling. Right?
Look.
People should be.
Come on. I'm sorry, y'all. I got too excited.
When they're getting into a serious, committed relationship, right? And understanding that marriage is a contract. And like Dr. Nick said, it's not about romance. It's not about necessarily even love. It's about we are joining our lives together legally. And this is what we are going to do as we go down this road. I personally don't believe that anybody should be married or have children before they're 30.
Okay.
I could probably do
that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Because that's when your brain is fully functioning, right? You can make logical decisions when you have, you have those thought process, that complex thought process that comes with being an adult, where you're actually thinking about other people, right? You're thinking about how other people are making, or how other people are in your world, and how you can be a better person to them, as opposed to when you're in young adulthood and you're thinking the opposite direction. Like, how can you make me feel good? How do you make me feel? But as an adult, you're usually thinking like, okay, well, what is it? How is my behavior gonna affect this other person or these other people? And that doesn't really happen before like 25 to 30. So I think
when you said that, I was like, because when I found out the brain isn't fully developed to around 30, I'm like, so we're having people make important decisions about what they're going to do with their career, who they're going to spend the rest of their life with before the brain is actually fully developed. Something don't sit right.
Yeah, right. No. Very true.
And to your point, I would add this. I was joking with my wife, but I think I'm very serious about starting a trend called pre-proposal counseling, like counseling that happens before premarital, because to your point, most couples think, hey, that we don't have to go to premarital counseling until we get engaged. And that just sets a lot of couples up for pressure. Don't ask me how I know. Because by that time, you've asked her to get engaged. You put the money, so you pay for a ring, right? Now you guys are on your way. Once the engagement is hit, all right, start planning. You have a deposit for the venue, a deposit for your reception. You pay money for your honeymoon, and then you go to sign up for most couples then go to sign up for premarital counseling. Premarital counseling starts, and you figure out, I don't know if I want to be with this Negro, but you done put down 50% deposit on your venue, and you can't get that money back.
Right.
And it's not to say that people are just making it not pulling out just because of financial reasons, but it is an incentive. When you got $8,000 on the line, it's like, we're gonna make this thing work in the name of Jesus.
Right. No, I definitely talked to people who have been divorced, and I was just curious, because I always think about, like, when I get married, I couldn't imagine walking down the aisle, like actually doing that, and that person not be like the man of my dreams, right? And so I was like, I want to ask, because I remember asking my friend about that, and he was recently divorced, and I said, so when you seen her coming down the aisle, were you thinking like, dang, this is the love of my life, and he was just like, no. And I was like, what? I was like, I would literally fall out, like my knees would start shaking, and I'd be like, I can't do it, And so I just couldn't believe it. But, and then as time progressed, and, all the conversation I've had, with different people and men, and particularly, I have found that as the running, thing, with some of these guys, like this, it wasn't their dream girl. And one of my friends who was still married, he was just like, my wife wasn't even, I can't even say she was my first or third pick, he was just like, but we made it work. Ooh. Like, I know it, he probably couldn't say that to her, but, and saying it to me, it was like, it was his advice to me that, like, sometimes the person that you think is like, your first pick and you're all goo goo gaga about is not what you need, and he was just saying that his wife was what he needed. and that they, work well together. And, he wouldn't have it any other way. And so, but of course, no woman wants to hear like, I was your third or fourth pick, like
Right.
that will end it right there. Don't let that come out before you get married. Oh, is that right? Fourth?
You
Okay.
were my choice, but you were God's first choice.
So anyways, hold on. Someone had, give me 1 second. They asked a question. Michael, he said, would you agree that when us as men try to wait until things are right before getting married, right, income and house, would it ever be the right time? Okay, I thought he was going to go somewhere else with that, because sometimes there are men who are waiting, but then they kind of get pressured by their women. So he's saying, would it ever be the right time? So like, is it ever the right time, really?
I think sometimes men wait. Let me step up. I think because men don't have a clear vision for their personal life, they don't understand how a woman is going to fit in that, which delays them from making the commitment to marriage. So if I am clear on who I am and my identity and what I'm pursuing, then that's going to give me a lot of information. It's going to give me half of my equation right there. So I know what type of woman is going to fit with where I'm headed. But if I don't have any idea of my personal vision, mission, any of that, I'm definitely going to be stalling my feet until I try to figure out some things in life.
That's good, because I think that a lot of times it's pushed, and it's so crucial, your professional vision, right? And like how you make money. Maybe it ain't even all that professional, but however you get your money, right? But that's good, is allowing them a little bit more time to focus on your personal vision. I recall asking a question to a guy, and it just kind of determined some things about me going forward with him. But I asked him about what makes you happy, like what things bring you joy. And when I tell you, he was stumped for the life of him. He could not find the answer, because it wasn't just because it was because he never was allowed to really, think about that, and no one was asking, and that's sad, but it was interesting. That was an interesting experience.
I caveat, and I want to even push it even further, not necessarily even narrow it to professionally, narrow it to professionally, like what are you going to do to make money, but what is it that you're personally called to do? Because all the other things are just roles that you serve. So if you get fired from a role, if you have a clear understanding of your purpose, your self-esteem is not going to be in the trash. You can maybe find something else, because your sense of identity isn't tied into that. But obviously for a lot of men, we tend to tie our identity into our sense of competence and performance.
Absolutely. I got another one here. It looks like, but that's how, okay, I think they're just adding to it, but that's how society has trained us to think. If you are not married, business oriented before 30, then you are frowned upon. Oh yeah, it's like throw them away, like throw them off the island, like we don't want them. How would you all change that within the Black community, or is it possible? Okay, as therapists and counselors and things, how would you guys change that?
It's conversation that has to be held, and consistent conversation. And here's the way, because where everyone is right now is on social media. So they need us. They need all of us and more of us to continue to show up as Black people who are having this conversation, not just showing us at our absolute best, but telling our absolute, real, true, authentic, raw stories about how we arrived to where we are right now. Now, there may be some people who had it like that in their families, where they just didn't have to work to get to where they wanted to be or where they are, but there are some who actually had to put in the work. So I believe that true, authentic conversations, being very transparent and showing up, and not just showing what we have, I think that's a lot of what's going on social media. I always tell my coaching clients and even the youth that I work with as a youth pastor, people show you on social media what they want you to know, what they want you to see. They're not going to show you their absolute worst days. Most people are not going to show you where they're up at night worrying and stressing about bills, where they're having problems with their children, where they're having issues with their addiction, or even having problems with their spouses. We show what we want people to see. We show people when we are at our best or even trying to get there, but we don't show them rock bottom. And I'm not saying that every post and every conversation has to be at rock bottom, but I definitely agree here that I'm looking at the comment here from Kalima, that we as a Black community need to start having these conversations to educate those who are coming up to 30 and those who are beyond even 30 to even have conversations to know that we have things that we need to work on. And it is very possible for us to be successful, to have successful families, have successful marriages, and to be able to be successful in life.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that, I know one thing that I used to struggle with, and it was a question that would just pop in my mind is like, well, I'm a woman, right? You know, but like, am I able to have a career and live in my purpose and be married? You know, like, you know, can you do both successfully? Because you hear all these horror stories and then, you know, it's like a lot of blame, like, well, no, you need to be, you know, doing your wife duties or, you know, focusing on your man. It's just like, yeah, but like, I got a purpose. And even one guy told me, he was just like, women don't have no vision. You need to be behind the man's vision. I was just like, okay. I was like, is that right? Is that so? I was like, I don't know about that, homeboy. You know?
Very interesting.
Very, right?
You can make a referral to me. I'll take care of him for you.
Right. He's gone with the win.
He's gone. Okay.
I don't even remember his name.
If you're married to the right man, not only can you pursue your purpose, but your purpose will be enhanced because of him.
That's
so you can be a wife, you can be a mother, you can have purpose, and you can have a career. You can have it all with the right man because he will push you to be even greater and he'll support you. The wrong man will make you feel like you have to be behind the purpose of that man. Yeah.
Right.
The one that you're going to James.
I think part of the problem is in what we value, right? If you and what Camilla is saying, if you're not married by 30, then you're not valuable, right? And I think that part of it, in even talking about finding your purpose, right? I always have my clients fill out a pie chart and put in the specific spaces what makes up the whole person and who you are, right? Marriage is a part of that, right? But we have been kind of trained and conditioned to become this person so that we'll be valuable enough to be married.
Right.
And I think that is wrong. Marriage should not be the goal of life. Marriage should be a part of life if that's what you choose to do. Some people choose not to be married. Some people choose not to have children, but because you're not considered, especially in the Black community, because you're not considered with Black women, because you're not considered valuable if you are at a certain age and you're not chosen or you're not picked or someone doesn't want you, right? We're always teaching our girls, well, this is what you need to do in order to be picked. This is what you need to do in order to be valuable. This is how you need to function and act, and you need to cook, and you need to clean, and you need to do all these things. But that's not what makes you valuable. And just like what Dr. Nick said, if you find the right person who believes in your vision and your dream, and you're both aligned in the things that you're trying to do, that's not going to be a concern.
Absolutely. No, I agree. I agree so much with everything that I heard. I don't know why there's echo. I did want to add that let me see if I can come back in. Okay. It's still echo. I wanted to add that even to what you were saying about young ladies not seeing their worth, it's attached to basically, them being married. And I've heard that a lot of times, even to the point that some of your girlfriends, like when they get married and someone says, oh, well, you need to hang out with other married people. And so it's just like, throw away your single friends. And it's just crazy. Or even this for the men. If you meet a man, he's over 40 with no kids and never been married, something's wrong with him. But it's just like when you think about the fact that a lot of men are not financially stable to a certain, until after a certain point. Maybe that man was just being responsible. He was either not having sex or he was, wrapping it up. And he was getting his stuff together before he even stepped to a woman. But there's that negativity that is being put in your mind. Girl, he's 41. He ain't got no kids. He's never been married. Something's wrong with him. And it's just like, we got to stop that. Like, seriously. So yeah, I just wanted to add that, as well, because there's some shaming that goes on as well, like on the male side as well, So yes, let's see here with our next question here. Oh, so a lot of times, it's very popular to hear the whole thing about red flags. You see identify the red flags, but how do you identify if your partner is actually ready for marriage? Like, what are some green flags to know if they're ready? Dr. Nick.
I like green flags. We always talk about red flags. And I'll say, if your partner is having, listen to what they're saying. Mm-hmm. If they're having conversations and they are including you in their futuristic conversations, asking you about, what do you think about this kind of, life in the future for as far as the home and, finances and children. If they're only talking, okay, we said about green flags. Let me stay with green flags. Okay, so green flags, if they're including you. See how easy it is for us to go to the negative? Right. Back to that red flag, backside. Red, okay, green flag. If they're continuously including you in their future plans, and they're asking you, not just telling you what they want to do in the future, but they're asking you, what do you think our life would be like? Or even, what kind of wedding would you like? What kind of honeymoon would you like? What kind of home would you like? Would you like a rancher? Would you like a single family home? Would you like a townhouse? How do you feel about, in-laws? Do you feel like in-laws should be close? Do you feel like, they shouldn't be close? How do you feel about best friends being involved in our marriage? Like a lot of different things that have to do with the two of you becoming one in the future. So if you listen to what they're saying, that can absolutely help this person really wants me there and not just here for the moment. Yeah.
Love it.
That's good.
Not here for the moment. Y'all heard that. That's good. That's good.
Not a space filler. No space fillers.
Right. I'll add, and this is really huge for men, is that they initiate transparent conversations. So vulnerability, they just don't wait for, and I'm specifically speaking for men, they just don't wait for the woman to initiate vulnerable conversations. They initiate as well. They make it safe to connect. A lot of brothers, they don't create an environment that actually makes it safe for them to actually be heard, be listened to. This is really key, and this is more so for the brothers as well. As a green flag for women is his inner circle. Like, who are his two closest friends? Or are they guys that are solid? Like that he could receive feedback from. If you guys are in a patch, you have the ability to say, hey, you might need to have a talk with your brother. Does he have a close relationship where he could get another perspective from a brother that he trusts to say, hey, yeah, man, you might want to do this differently. I know you love your wife, but she's not in a space that she can hear from you right now because of ... Doesn't have any close brothers in his circle. Stay on green flags. If he has good brothers in his circle, it's a green flag.
Okay. What are the green flags, though, for a man to know that this woman is ready?
Perfect. At the top, man, it's really emotional intimacy is the feeling that he can be safe with this person without the feeling of having his vulnerability being weaponized against him. That's probably like at top for the men that I see is they fear that their vulnerability will be weaponized against them. So if you can have a relationship with a person where you feel like you can share without the fear of judgment, it's really going to help to have a whole bunch of other different conversations because you feel like you don't have to filter yourself. So,
Mm.
and if that doesn't, because if that fear of vulnerability is not overcome initially, you won't be able to have truthful, honest conversations about parenting, about financial goals, vision. You won't be able to have any of that if that vulnerability is not achieved.
That's good. That's good. Rabia, you have anything you want to add to that?
Um, just like Dr. Dick said, I'm going to the negative, but
Right.
not that not that most people even do this, but and this is just maybe my own theory, but because I'm a therapist, I think that green flags for me would be someone who is willing to resolve whatever issues that they've had in their past, however they need to do that, right?
Yeah, okay.
Therapeutically, or if it's
Right.
non-therapeutic, if it's just talking to the pastor, if it's talking to your friends, whatever it is, but having unresolved trauma or unresolved issues with the parent, right?
Mhm.
When you go into marriage, especially if you don't know what marriage is about, you
Right.
kind of need to have those things taken care of before you are ready to be married. The
No, I
other
think
thing is,
that's good.
oh, go ahead.
No, I was saying
Oh.
that's good. I love that fact of because it made me think of something too. Women, be okay with someone, your partner, being able to resolve his own issues without you. Because I
Right.
know we like to feel needed. I mean, everyone does. Men like to feel needed, women like to feel needed. We want to be the superhero, right? But be okay with them resolving those issues, even if it means they have to talk to someone else that's not you, you know?
Right.
Okay, carry on.
The other thing is communication, right?
Okay.
And communication is not just talking. Like, I can talk to you.
Right.
No, communication is I not only talk to you, but I understand what you're saying. And even if I don't agree, I allow you to still have your opinion or your thoughts or your feelings or whatever it is that you have. And then I communicate to you, this is how I feel about this, and I understand how you feel. And so let's have a conversation about that. That type of communication is
Yeah.
necessary to be
That's
ready
good. I
to get
love
married.
that.
That's good. That's good.
I
Okay.
love
All
that.
right, y'all. Okay. Well, we have our last question, and which is what this is all about. I mean, part of what this is all about. But how does premarital counseling help couples? What's the process? Because a lot of people might shy away from premarital counseling because they don't know, that they need it. And another thing is they don't know what that process is. So if you guys want to kind of go into that, James, I'll let you go first.
Okay.
Share with us what what the process is and how premarital counseling helps.
Right. So one of the things I often say is premarital counseling helps you to avoid potential landmines once you get married. It allows you to have those conversations before you get started. As we've all talked about tonight, that marriage is work. So you don't want to give yourself unnecessary work by not preparing yourself before it gets started. So there are two primary assessments that I use with couples. One is Prepare and Rich, and one is by another person named, last name is Gottman. And I walk a couple through taking these assessments because it creates a conversation around a variety of different relationship dynamics, and it's customized to the couple specifically. So instead of saying, "Hey, you guys need to work on, your communication and conflict resolution," just generally speaking, no. As a result of them taking the assessment, I can speak to certain aspects about the relationship. They can see that on paper objectively, so it's not something subjective that I'm just pulling out my hat, so to speak. No, I can say
Right.
this in very good detail, and over a course of 8 to 10 sessions really help a couple really prepare to have a solid foundation, and to alleviate, for the most part, any of their anxiety as a result of them having to join union with the person for hopefully the rest of their life, get a chance to really alleviate a lot of those concerns.
I love it. I love it. All right. And Dr. Nick.
I definitely would say even before you get to the counseling, you have to have a conversation with each other, especially in our Black community. Counseling and therapy is looked down on as a negative thing. And I think that I know for a fact that you and your partner need to come together exchange your views. Now, this should happen before you even said I do. That pre-engaged counseling
Yeah,
is
pre-proposal. I love.
pre-proposal, yes, because you may, once you say I do, you may have to find out that you're getting ready to say I do to someone who says I don't to premarital counseling, and then what are you going to do?
That's really good.
Hold in the bag.
Yeah, because so conversations are needed, and then once you and your partner agree, you're definitely going to go there. You and your partner together choose the premarital counselor that you both want, not just, well, for me, my father's a pastor, but we're going to go to my dad because my dad. No, we're not going to my dad because my dad. I'm his girl. We're not.
Right.
No. He's going to tell you what he needs you to know. No, he might not. No, he might. But I'm just saying, like, you may feel like that, though. As my fiance, you may feel like, oh, that's your father. I have a brother who's also a pastor. Or that's your brother. They're saying that. Or you know this person and you know that person. And that's why they're saying you both need to go to someone that you both choose together. Someone who doesn't already have buy-in into one of you, who will have a bias. So there's a lot of groundwork that needs to happen before you even make that phone call. Because if your partner does not want premarital counseling, you have an issue. And that is not a green flag.
Right. No, that's very, very good. Very good. And I think that individual counseling can't hurt either. Just dropping that out there beforehand, because then you can receive it. You understand the benefits, of any kind of free anything. So but yes, Rabia.
Well, just what you said, when you're doing premarital counseling, you should also have individual therapy, because it's necessary to resolve all of those past issues that you may have. A lot of people, and I don't know if James has heard this, but a lot of people think that the purpose of counseling or marriage counseling or any type of marriage counseling is when there's a problem, right? The only time that you go to counseling is when you have a problem, right? When there's some type of issue. But I think the purpose of premarital counseling is to help each other to understand your different culture. And I'm not speaking about ethnic culture. I'm speaking about how you were raised, right? If you were raised to believe one thing and this person's raised to believe another thing, when you come and join a household together, that's going to be conflict automatically off top, right? I use a sponge, you use a rag to wash the dishes. We're going to have a problem.
And that's true. I know that's probably a good example from probably live experience, right?
Right, because that becomes conflict, because it's like, well, this is how I know what I'm supposed to be doing. And if we're sharing these responsibilities, or we're sharing this household, or we're sharing these finances, like one person might want to use a bank, the other person doesn't like banks. Somebody might need to put their stuff under the mattress, right? So the premarital counseling will help you to understand that you have a different culture, even if you are both Black, right? You grew up differently, you were raised differently, you have different traditions, you have different ways of understanding and believing things, and it's necessary to know that before you join your family.
Absolutely. I think that's so good, and it's so important because folks don't want a divorce. Everybody that I've come in contact with in life that has been divorced, they always say, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. And that's pretty, serious, because there's some people who would wish certain stuff on their worst enemy. So that lets me know that divorce is just like, something that you don't even want to imagine or experience. So I think any of this, any advice, counseling, therapy, just words of wisdom it's important. It's like, don't put yourself in a place that you don't want to be, like you got to kind of keep that in mind, where it is that you see yourself, or where you want to be and where you don't want to be, so that you can kind of move accordingly and gain all the knowledge and pick up all the tools along the way, for you to have the best life. Right. So, Well, that concludes our show, and I thank you all so much for being here. It was amazing. Like, I'm gonna look back at this, episode, as a person who's not married yet, and keep it in mind and share. So, everybody who's watching, make sure that you share the link and make sure that you like it and leave a comment later. We love to hear your feedback. At this time, I want to give you guys an opportunity to share your social medias and any upcoming events that you may be having so that folks can follow you and get in contact with you. I'll let you go first, Dr. Nick.
Yes, first of all, thank you for inviting me. I think that we connected through Clubhouse.
Your Clubhouse.
Yes. So thank you for inviting me. I've had an awesome time. I love the panel. It's great when the panel can vibe together. So thank you. So you can connect with me on all social media. My name is Dr. Nick. So DRNYC7 is my Instagram. And through all of my social media, you'll be able to find out where I'm speaking next, my traveling schedule, and my upcoming events. And if you can't remember Dr. Nick 7, just remember New York City, Dr. NYC. And you can connect with me. And I do respond to my DMs. It may take me a while because I have a lot, but I do get back to you. Yes, I will. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And Rabia, I'll let you go next. Let the people know where they can find you.
So my Instagram at SouthSacMHC. My private practice is South Sacramento Mental Health Collaborative. So again, I'm in Sacramento. I service all of California, but not outside of California, unfortunately, not yet. Hopefully soon. But I can. I am now accepting clients. So if anyone in California needs services, reach out.
Awesome. Okay, California. Okay. Thank you, Rabia. And last but not least, James.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm in North Carolina, James Perkins. You can just visit jamesperkins.health if you want to work with me in any capacity, whether that's counseling, coaching, marriage intensive, or individual intensive. I'm here to support you along your journey. Instagram, find me at James Perkins Inspires, and I look forward to working with you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, James, Rabia, Dr. Nick. I appreciate you all. And I'm glad that you guys were able to spend your Sunday evening with us. Thank you to all your families as well who might be waiting, like, can we eat now? So, thank you. I appreciate it. And to all of you, thank you so much for joining us this evening and enjoying the show. And just a reminder, this does wrap up season 1 of Talks with V. And we'll be taking, what part? Of
Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay, Raleigh. Okay. And so, so we're wrapping up season 1 of Talks with V, and we will be taking a break, but we'll be back for season 2 of Talks with V, and it's going to be all about women's healing. You all know how passionate I am about my community, and God has really been pulling on my heartstrings and making it very clear of what my purpose is. And so I believe that, as we work on our healing, we will kind of, it'll trickle, a domino effect, and help, heal us all. So I look forward to it. And please feel free to reach out to me on Instagram or talkswithv at gmail.com. And if you have any ideas or any concerns, things that you want to touch on, topics that you struggle with, or feel that we just need to address as a, Black community or as women, go ahead and slide into my DMs, send me an email, and I will do my best to serve you all. So thank you, everyone, and you all have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.